Good day to you. This is another recording of the Key Row Film Society, and the movie we are going to be looking at is the movie Top Gun, which was released in 1986. So this is going to follow the rules of movies that came out in a year that ended with 6, but it's also going to begin our move towards July 4th, 2026, which will be the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So 250 years of these United States of America. And so, like I said, I'm looking at movies. We're going to go through a series of movies that kind of fit into that theme, but also maintain my trend of doing movies that came out in a year that ended in 6. And so, as we begin to talk about Top Gun, let's watch the trailer.
I'm gonna send you up against the best.
Yes, sir.
You two characters are going to Top Gun.
I feel the need for speed.
5 weeks, you're gonna fly against the best fighter pilots in the world. You guys really are cowboys.
I'm an instructor at this school. I see 20 new hot shots every 8 weeks.
I don't like you because you're unsafe.
That's right.
I am dangerous.
He's a wild card. Flies by the seat of his pants.
Yeah, I guess when I see something, I go right after it.
It takes a lot more than just fancy flying.
Gentlemen, this school is about combat.
There are no points for second place.
Figured it out yet?
What's that?
Who's the best pilot? No, I think I can figure that one out on my own.
Tom Cruise, Kelly McGillis. Top Gun.
All right, so there you have it. Top Gun, the big movie that came out. It was a huge hit. Came out in 1986. And it's kind of interesting when you look at the cast of people that you have in this film is a lot of these characters, or these actors, even though we know them really well, obviously Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer, we know these people well now, but it's interesting. It's like Tom Cruise, when this came out, he had done Risky Business, which obviously that was a big thing. He was in Outsiders, but he wasn't the main character. Val Kilmer, I mean, this was kind of his breakout role, I think. Here, I'm going to click to see what Val Kilmer did before this, see if I can find. Bear with me, I just got scrolling through here. Yeah, it was the third movie. So he was in Real Genius, which came out the previous year. But yeah, he was. It's really, like I said, a lot of these actors were not super well known at this point. Their stardom was just beginning to blossom or to become a thing, and it's. But the thing is the movie ended up being, has become so iconic as one of the defining movies of the 1980s. And so I watched it last night. I've seen it many times before, but I watched it with the intent that I was going to make a video this weekend for it, and And the amazing thing is how well this movie stands up. I mean, from the beginning, it begins with a nice little blob of text that gives you kind of the background of what Top Gun is. And the only thing I kind of wish is it did some type of a scrolling text, but I realized they probably didn't want to do that because Star Wars was only 3 years earlier. I don't think they wanted to give off that Star Wars vibe or not, but it would have been nice. So once you get to And so that when you are the timing would be a little bit better when you read that pilots call it, and then boom, Top Gun. There probably was a different way they could have done that text a little bit better. But even still, you're hearing that music, and it's just kind of getting you into the vibe, and then you get to that Top Gun, and then it's this pound, and then the music keeps rolling, and it's showing this wonderful images of these fighter jets and all that, and then all of a sudden, and then it clicks into Highway to the Danger Zone, and I should say, this was, it's kind of interesting. Look at the Rotten Tomatoes. I'll get to that in a second, but this was, one of the greatest film soundtracks there ever was. I usually kind of think of what are the movies that have the best soundtracks? There's a difference between a soundtrack and a film score. A film score is basically the instrumentals and all that stuff. And Top Gun has some decent instrumentals here and there, notably like that opening music I was just talking about. But a soundtrack is talk about the list of vocal music, the songs that they have scattered throughout the movie. And I usually kind of look at Forrest Gump as being the best movie when it comes to soundtracks, because it is a list of just absolutely amazing movies. But something that Top Gun has over a movie like Forrest Gump, something that Top Gun, or even another movie that came out, I think either same year or maybe even the year after, Dirty Dancing, has over a movie like Forrest Gump, is that its great songs are native to this movie. So like Highway to the Danger Zone, Danger Zone, that was introduced to us in the movie Top Gun. The, Playing with the Boys, Take My Breath Away, those songs were introduced with the movie Top Gun. And so they're the only two songs that are not native to Top Gun would be Great Balls of Fire and You Lost That Loving Feeling. Those are the only two things, although Lost That Loving Feeling is one of the most iconic scenes in film, is, when he tries to woo Charlie, Kelly McGillis's character. And so, like I said, this movie, it still holds up. It helps, even though I think it's so interesting, the Rotten Tomatoes has a 59%. And which means that when this movie came out, the critics didn't like it. It was rejected by the critics. And I'm like, and I realize that there's levels of cheese or whatever, and I know what it is. It is a cash grab. Jerry Bruckheimer, who's the producer on this, he was really, really smart in developing this movie, because he's like, hey, I'm going to make money. I got to make a movie that's going to catch the guys and going to catch the girls. And so how are you going to catch the girls? You got to make sure you got a heartthrob actor like Tom Cruise, and you got that romance with this business working girl like Charlie, Kelly McGillis's character, and bring them together. And of course, you got to have that volleyball scene with these very well fit guys without a shirt on and everything. So you have to throw that in. So that got the girls in. And then you have fighter jets and, macho. And that's going to bring the guys. And it was very smart from a marketing standpoint. And the great thing is this movie was made before CGI was a thing, which means you're looking at real fighter jets. You're seeing real military equipment, things like that. And that makes it look better. It gives it a better feel. And the thing is I honestly do actually think that the movie, if you sit and watch it, the the story of the movie is very simplistic, but it's actually good. It's actually got good character movement, because you have Maverick, who is this very arrogant, cocky character. So Maverick, played by Tom Cruise. But the thing, and he takes risks. And he's called Maverick because he is a maverick. He takes risks. He does things that probably should not do. And a lot of times it works. But the thing I like is the movie does show that he struggles with this. He knows that some of the things he does is actually wrong, and it is hurting people. And it comes to like a peak when Goose dies. And the irony is that when Goose dies, it is actually a moment that didn't happen because of his maverick ways. It actually happened while he was, playing the game, while he was doing the right thing. And it was a totally unfortunate thing. It didn't prove that playing the game right is not what he should do. It just was a very unfortunate thing. And it made a very tragic moment, and it's a good character moment. And and the fact that weighed him down the way it did. It should have. He shouldn't. I like that he didn't go right back into flying, that he'd quit for a moment. Because there's this little scene, the scene where, what is it? Yeah, Tom Skerritt, who plays Viper, goes to Maverick, and he says, he's telling him, like, this is just the way it goes. You lose people. And it makes sense that wouldn't help him, because the way that Goose dies, I mean, it is one of the really sad moments of the 80s. Now, understand, the 80s, we were filled with sad moments. I mean, we saw, Littlefoot's mom die. We saw, there was a re-release of Bambi. That's one of the first movies I saw in theaters, and I remember seeing Bambi's mom die. I saw Optimus Prime die. There was the never-ending story moments. We were definitely filled with trauma growing up in the 80s. So the movies did a really good job of preparing us for trauma. And Goose was one of those. But the thing is what made Goose's death so hard for Maverick, it's not just that he was his best friend. And yes, and there is that hard reality. And this is why I think this is such a good movie to watch as a beginning into the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. We're focusing on our military. Now, this is a low-key military movie, because honestly, it is military propaganda. It is trying to get people to... It is trying to recruit people into the Air Force. And Top Gun Maverick, the movie that came out a couple of years ago, maybe I'll review that sometime down the road. But that movie, too, is also is kind of a recruitment video. So was back in the 80s, you had the TV show, the animated series, G.I. Joe was doing the same idea. And so it's much of a low-key, lower-risk movie. But to have have Goose die. So like I said, this is why it's appropriate to talk about this. It's highlighting our military and the heroism. And by becoming a soldier, every military person is risking their life. Because a war can happen. Use what's going on in our world right now. We have the ongoing tensions, conflicts with Iran. And, who would have known, did every soldier that signed up for the army know that was what was going to be the world for them in 2026. And it is always a risk. And this is why, it can't help but give enough thanks for those who serve in the military and pray for them. Pray for them. Pray for their families. And I do like that this is covered, like even at the beginning with Cougar, this is really covering it does a very simple way cover the weight of being a soldier. Is, like Cougar at the beginning, he has this mental breakdown and he's not able to continue to, he ends up not continuing as a pilot. And why? Is because he saw the picture of his family. That's hard. That is a hard thing for anybody to go, especially if somebody serves in the military, knowing that they're married, knowing that they have kids, is they are risking leaving their wife a widow, leaving their kids without a father. I mean, it is a big risk. And that's why, you can not pray more and give thanks more or too much for our military and for what they've done, and defending the freedoms they have. The freedom that, right now I'm doing this video, and I don't know how theological I'm going to get with this video, but the fact that I can do that, the fact that I could talk about the Christian faith on this video, and it's going to stream, you could stream all around the world. The fact that I am, in a church and I have no fear of persecution. That comes from the Constitution of the United States, but the Constitution is defended and protected by people, our military, our Marines, our Air Force, the Army, the Navy, Coast Guard, National Guard, the reserves. I'm sure I missed something there. And there, like I said, we cannot give enough thanks for those who defended through the many generations of this nation. And so again, with the Cougar, you see that sacrifice. So going back to when Goose dies, I like the fact that when Viper comes to him and tells him, we're going to die, it shouldn't. It probably did not comfort as much, and I think that was right. That was good writing, because the thing is, I think that would totally bug Maverick is Goose didn't die in combat. He didn't die in a war. He died in training, doing a training exercise that people are supposed to come back from. And he didn't die because he died, honestly, and if you looked at the video, he died basically because of a plane malfunction. And the only thing I would say that I don't like in the movie is how I think they could have done more with Ice. And I know this is the 80s and they they didn't think about this stuff, because again, this is one of the things about Top Gun I like, is that there is Ice is not a villain. He's an antagonist to some degree, but he's not a villain. Like they say at the beginning, Ice and Maverick are on the same team. And I like that throughout it, they kind of emphasize this. And they show that Maverick messes up. And Ice is sometimes right about that Maverick's mess-ups. And I think that the fact that Ice didn't quite have the words for Maverick, I think that goes with his character. He struggled to come up with the right words. But I do think Ice should have shown, there should have been some way of showing that Ice had guilt too. And the reason I say that is because if you watch the scene, it was Ice's stubbornness that causes the backflow of the wind that throws the plane out of whack. He should be having guilt too. And I like that Maverick didn't go and blame him and didn't go after him. But I wish that they could have done, I wonder if they could have done something with Ice to at least show a level of guilt, even if he didn't show it to Maverick. And like I said, I like the dynamic of these two characters. Ice is a perfectionist, he's stubborn, and that's what set it up. And Maverick is such a competitor, he probably got too close to Ice, and that probably might have played a role. So both of them kind of played a little bit of a role in what happened. And I liked that dynamic they played. When Ice was asking the question, should he go up? I don't know if this was really because of the Maverick ways. I think it was honestly, he was saying, I don't know if Maverick is yet ready to go up there again. And that for a moment, it gets verified. So like I said, the movie does a good job of writing these characters. And in the end, You like Ice. You like, Val Kilmer's Ice. You like Tom Cruise's Maverick. You're cheering. In the end, you like both of them. And I think it was this was a good movie. It is a legendary movie. It's a classic film. It's great entertainment. It's so easy to sit down and watch, and take in the music, take in the action, take in the jets and all that. I was trying to think about some of the theological questions that would come out of this, because that's the goal of the video, to talk theologically. I talked already a little bit about how we pray for our military and things like that. Giving thanks for our military. I guess kind of the two things I suppose somebody could ask the question is, Maverick sometimes, well, he's a maverick. And there's the question of, I know this is it's kind of that ethical questions, and you talk about it from a military standpoint, but you could kind of talk about this in life in general. At which point is breaking the rules too much? At which point is there points where it's okay to break the rules? So no, I'm not talking about necessarily the Ten Commandments. And that's even where I'm granted that's worthy of another conversation. But well, actually, this is a commandment thing. Okay, so the fourth commandment. So let's see if I can I'm gonna bring this up. I'm gonna look this up. You're gonna Google on your computer. Looking up Google. Luther's Small Catechism. So yes, Luther's Small Catechism. You could find it online. So I'm going to the Ten Commandments, and I'm going to pull this over just so you could read it. So you could see the head of Superman right behind me. But anyways, the fourth commandment says, honor your father and mother. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not despise or anger our parents and other authorities, but honor them, serve and obey them, love and cherish them. So if you watch this movie, if you watch Top Gun, Maverick, I don't think has a problem with honoring authorities, because I think he's very honorable to Viper, to Jester, to where's the one that played? It was I'm missing one in here. Where is he? Yeah, James Tolkien's Stinger. He's honorable to them, but the issue isn't about whether or not he honors them. The question is his obedience. And he does the flybys, which is cool moments and funny moments, but you can go into the question. This is an ethical question. He knows he's not supposed to do it, and from what I've heard on when I've watched videos and people watch it, like, yeah, it is a huge no-no in the military. And, it's a cool moment in the movie, sure. But, yeah, it's something he's not supposed to do, and there's not a good argument or reason to do it. It's okay, it's a movie, it's okay. But in reality, no. There are things like that. There's reasons for those rules. And there's reasons you obey it. But it comes up sometimes in the flights, in the combat. There's circumstances, like I think there's one scene early in the movie. I think it's the first battle that he drops below the minimum, altitude or whatever, and in order to get the target, and it works for him. And that's one of those where it's questioned. This was the rule. He didn't keep it, and it's a rule that exists for a purpose. It is to protect them. It's to protect that flight. It's to protect the fighters. But he does it, and it works. And so the question is, like, was he right or wrong? It worked. And it's kind of even the ends justify the means. If the end results end in a good thing, is okay to have done the thing going against authority, which. And granted, that was that scene happened within the context of a of practice, but it doesn't, or a training moment. It was not an actual combat. But in the case of a combat, what if dropping below actually did save someone's life? Would that be right? Would that be appropriate? And so I think that's kind of maybe a good worthy question to ask, a conversation. You watch Top Gun. Is he right or wrong? The second topic I might look into if I was talking about the movie Top Gun would be, how do we talk about, how do we deal with grieving? Because that is a big issue, especially, again, going back to when Goose dies. And you see the grief and how people answer and how people deal with it. The one that, not surprisingly, gave the best to him was probably Meg Ryan's character, who plays the wife of Goose. And so she doesn't try to explain it. She doesn't tell him, hey, you didn't do anything wrong or whatever. She just says, he loved flying with you. He loved flying, but he really loved flying with you. And, I mean, that's all she really needed to say. Because that's the temptation, is to try to explain away, especially something like that, is like try to explain it. And even though you may be right, when you're in the midst of grief, you can't hear reason. You can't hear logic a lot of times. I think Kelly McGillis, when they're in the bar, apparently, I think her conversation somehow was the thing that kicked him out, but out of his grief. But I think she was really hard on him. I didn't like what she said. Because you have to remember, I mean, the time that passed was only, probably a couple weeks, if even that. And so I thought I didn't really like how she handled it. I think probably the one that did the best maybe was Viper, maybe. The second time. But it was interesting to watch, how do people answer. And the thing is, a lot of times our temptation is to explain away, or sometimes we want to say, well, it was just God's time, or something like that. We give these really bad answers, and while there may be a level of truth to what you're saying, it's not as helpful as we think it is. Saying the truth thing is not always the best thing to say in the moment. Maybe years down the road, it might be something to be said, maybe. And a lot of times, a person probably knows you're right. It still doesn't take it away. And now this is Top Gun, and it's a movie. They're not going to dive into the theological. I mean, the real answer you give is say, hey, I don't have an answer. I wish I could tell you the why and what could have been done better, and the what ifs. It never helps you, never comforts you. The only thing is I could tell you is, of a God who loves you, who is with you in your grief. I could tell you, and for the, actually even said it in the scene, they actually did mention the movie that he went to church. That's what I'd say to him. It's like, listen, Goose was a man of faith, and I know he's with Jesus, and that's the thing is during, when we talk about military and we talk about Memorial, we had Memorial Day a couple weeks ago, and we reflect on 250 years of this nation. The great comfort is the freedom over death, is that in the face of so many lives I've lost in the defense of the freedom of this country, we take comfort and joy for what has been accomplished, yes, but even greater comfort and joy in the fact that those who died in that defense, but died in faith, have the ultimate freedom. And that is the freedom that comes through Jesus. So there's my little bit of commentary on Top Gun 2026. It is a 40-year-old, or 1986. It's a 40-year-old movie, 40-year-old. I don't know the exact date it released. Let me look up that quickly. Okay, quick looked it up. It was released on May 16th, 1986. So just a week ago, about 40 years and a month ago is when it was released. Next week, I'm going to come back and I'm going to review Cars. from Pixar because, granted, Cars 20th anniversary was this week. I'm saving it for the weekend that Toy Story 5 comes out because that's kind of the weekend that Pixar movies tend to come out these days. And so going with the Pixar vibe, I'm going to review Cars. So blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.